Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 11, and we're back in the cage. I've brought Joe Holka, the co-founder and media manager of linemovement.com. He's going to be with us today on the show. This is his return visit to the cage. He beat me last year. I've got to get revenge, and I've got to beat him in the cage this year. I'm 6-4 on the season. We got over the little losing streak that we had there in the middle, where basically everything was going wrong for me for 4 straight weeks. We've righted the ship, and now I've got a very tough opponent ahead of the week off with Thanksgiving coming next week. If you've played head-to-heads on DraftKings, you fully understand that you're going to have overlap with whoever it is that you're playing against. When we draft these cage matches, we are playing head-to-head against one another, but we're drafting them in a snake format. So it's going to be 1st and 1, 2nd and 2, and then each of us are going to pick one player the rest of the way, back and forth. It's more about pain than it is getting the optimal lineup, though I think that Joe is a slave to the optimals. So I'm going to try and inflict a little bit of pain, as much as I can inflict on him within the rules, obviously. And then we're going to play for charity. We're going to play for $100. We're both playing for No Kid Hungry today. Great charity, putting food in the hands of kids who are a little bit food insecure, which is something that is very important in 2020, if not all the time. We got to try and do what we can do to make sure that everybody gets lifted up in America, not just, you know, here or there. To me, it all starts with the kids. So let's do what we can. If you wanted to donate as well, there's going to be a link down below in the description. Just click that, go donate to No Kid Hungry. If you have even $5, every single dollar helps. Let's bring in Joe. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, Al. Good to be back. And now I have some experience in this game that you've kind of created, right? Definitely something that's more unique versus some of the other stuff we see across Twitch, across YouTube. So happy to do it, man. I think these can kind of go either way, but having no overlap makes it a really fun puzzle. So I'm excited, man. This will be a good time.
It's always tough, right? Because people think, I see it in Twitch chat while we're recording these live. I see it in the YouTube comments as well. Oh yeah, this guy slaughtered the other guy. And then I have the odds maker make odds every once in a while. And nobody's ever more than like a 3 or a 4 point favorite over the other one. I think that I've got some sharp guests that come on this show. So nobody's really, even if you think that, oh, that's the bad lineup, they're not that bad of a lineup. And it's really very coin flippy from one to the other. I like that there's no overlap. I love that there's some strategy. I love the look on my opponent's faces when I snipe them or pick somebody from their favorite team. So it's a unique way to deliver content, and I thank you for coming back on the show. Why don't you tell all of our viewers where they can find all of your content this year?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, about half of my content is on my personal YouTube channel, which is just easy to find, youtube.com/Joe Holka. I stream every Monday and Wednesday on YouTube at about 3 p.m. Eastern time to about 5 p.m. Eastern time. Also Sunday morning, well before your stream, Smiz, I go on at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So that's always a really fun show throughout the week. The other half of my content is on the Line Movement YouTube channel, like you mentioned before, startup world, all that stuff. There's a ton of stuff going on for MMA, NHL. Obviously, I do about 5 NFL shows over there as well. We do bets against the spread on Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. We do the Tilt Space on Sunday nights with Peter Overzet and Michael Leone. A bunch of stuff going on directly after my streams as well, most days of the week. So it's busy, man. It's definitely a grind during NFL, but I can't complain, man. It's been fun to see the growth of my channel, Line Movement, all that stuff. Over 1,000 concurrent viewers on Sunday mornings that early, which is it's a great time, man. So I enjoy the game of it. We've talked about it a little bit, but just doing really good content is something that I really focus on.
That's awesome. Really happy to see you succeeding. Obviously, you took the leap, took the plunge 2 seasons ago. This is your second season. And it's nice to see it work out, right? You like to get a little bit rewarded. So you've got the first pick here. You're going to take 1. I'm going to take 2nd and 2, and then we're going to be back to you for 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 the rest of the way. I have an idea of where I think you're going to start. Let's see if you go that direction.
I told you before we went, I guess, live here, is that I've evolved a little bit as a player. I used to be one of those people that would just jam in every single high volume running back and just go from there and just kind of get thin elsewhere. But I have evolved a little bit. The fun part about this game too, that I guess we didn't touch on completely, is that there's some game theory involved here. So we got to figure out ways I just got to beat you. I don't have to beat anyone else, just have to beat you. Right. So
don't have to outrun the bear. I just got to outrun you.
Exactly. So with the number one pick, I want to give myself a little bit of flexibility to think through this. So I'm going to
Mhm.
go with LaMichael PERINE. So there's a couple reasons for this pick overall. Obviously, he's just 4,400.
Mhm.
They kind of come out and say that he's going to be the feature back over the remainder of the season. The organization really just wants to kind of determine if he can be this future running back one. There's some concerns, obviously, like anytime you're going to be, I guess, going after a back with that's tied to the Jets, that's tied to Adam Gase. Not great, but I like the flexibility involved. One of the things that I really focus on too when targeting running backs who can also catch passes, Michael PERINE's comp is TJ Yeldon, which obviously isn't great, but he is a capable pass catcher, is trying to focus on zone defenses as the matchup versus just like a DVOA versus the running backs, that sort of thing. So zone defense, great for pass catching. The Chargers, ninth most zone coverage this year, 71.4%. So I think there's a chance that LaMichael PERINE still could have a little bit more value through the air. On DraftKings, 4,400 seems like a good starting point. I'll go with him for this one.
I hate the Jets. I don't
Most
hate the
people
Jets.
do.
I like all the Jets players. I
Yeah.
can't stand Gase.
Well, don't you think that this team like maybe wouldn't be the worst team in the league if it was a different coach? Like they do have some players. Like it's not like they're just like completely devoid of talent, maybe on the defensive side, but they have some guys. They have a few guys. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there.
No, I think, look, I really have to sort myself out here. I like Jamison Crowder. I think that he's a talented slot receiver and great from a PPR perspective. I think that Sam Darnold is actually good. I don't think that he is a bad quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback in a bad system. So for everybody that's about to just start hammering their keyboards on YouTube telling me how bad they think Darnold is, think about how bad Tannehill looked in Gase's offense and think about what you think about Ryan Tannehill now that he's not playing for Ryan Gase for Gase anymore. Now that Tannehill's there in Tennessee, oh, wow, Tannehill actually good. That's kind of how I feel about Sam Darnold. I think he's actually a good quarterback. And if he goes somewhere else this offseason where there's talented wide receivers and tight ends and pass catching in a good offense with a good play caller, I think you're going to see Darnold bounce where he's not going to bounce playing for Gase.
I would not be surprised. So that's scary. So this pick, I guess, you come out and you say it like there's those reports, obviously. But what could really bury me right off the hop is just like Frank Gore comes in here and just takes all the carries. Like that would be very Adam Gase esque for sure.
And it's so egregious.
It's insane. I just don't understand.
You have no prospects this year. Figure out what you have in these kids.
Yeah,
but whatever.
You would think, right? Like this is a guy that he was like a 4th round pick. I get that, but there were still a lot of people that like PERINE coming into the league. This guy, this is his second chance, I guess. Maybe he takes advantage of it. He's just too cheap. I don't understand how DraftKings is like doesn't see that type of news. Obviously, there was some talk about this even before this report came out. So 4,400, it's not quite like the Mike Davis free square that didn't really work out. Let's hope that this one works out a little bit better.
Look, even if that play didn't work out, I think it was the right play. Yeah, it's not even, I think it was 100% the right play.
Would you have taken PERINE at 1 if I would have given it to you? That's what I want to know. Okay. So I know who your pick's going to be. So it's probably who you thought I was going to pick.
I'm thankful that you left me Dalvin Cook because I thought that's 100% where you were going with the number 1 pick. So I'm going to take Dalvin Cook against the Fantasy Carnival, hoping that he gets to ride on the Ferris wheel, goes to the midway, wins a stuffed animal, maybe has a nice funnel cake with some Nutella and whipped cream on top of it because Dalvin Cook has been outstanding. Last game, against the Bears are a very, very good defense, and in Chicago still touched the ball 34 freaking times. This is a game that they do expect to play from ahead. He is the 1-5 box running back on this slate. They did what they did in 2016. You remember 2016, like David Johnson, Lev Bell year, where they were underpriced all year. No running back was basically above like 8,000 or 8,200. And then all of a sudden, week 10, week 11, they jacked everybody up to like 9,000, 9,500. Seems like they're doing the exact same thing here in 2020. So to me, I'll take Dalvin Cook, even though he's up to 9K going up against Dallas. Yes, I do think that there's danger. I think that the wide receivers and Kirk Cousins are a good tournament leverage play. But give me Dalvin Cook with 25 expected touches against a defense that's allowing, I think, 3.2 yards. Go ahead and fact check me. 3.2 yards before first contact. If you let Dalvin get into the second level against this Dallas defense, it's going to be trouble all day long. I'm going to stay here at running back, and I'm going to take another guy that I think people, and you may not be on this guy at all. I don't know, especially with the PERINE pick. You may not be here. But I'm going to take Duke Johnson, coming off of a bad week where he got actually good volume in a game where it was a bad game environment from a fantasy perspective. 40-mile-an-hour winds, we've seen that now twice in Cleveland, held that Houston offense to essentially not being able to score, not being able to sustain drives, but and they played like 55 or 56 snaps on offense. Duke Johnson got 53 of those, or 51 of those snaps at running back, ran 23 routes last week, was only targeted one time. And he got, basically the majority of the rush attempts for their running backs. I think this is a great bounce back spot against New England, who has not been a very good defense. They're living off their reputation of old, where we're like, oh, I don't know if I can play guys against Bill Belichick in this defense. It's not the same defense that it was for the past 10 or 15 years. So on reputation, yeah, fantasy wise, we like to avoid New England, but this year, fading players who are playing the Patriots has not been the way to go. 5,400 presents me with a good amount of value here. And I think that the volume jumps back up somewhere around 15 to 19 touches, probably with 3 to 6 targets in the passing game, and every target for a running back is worth 2.7 carries. I think Duke Johnson is way too cheap this year and this week, and in tournaments is going to be underplayed because of what happened last week.
I like it. Obviously, Dalvin Cook was the one I was wrestling with. I ultimately wanted to give myself a little bit more flexibility because I do like some of the other running back options on this particular slate. But hard to argue with Dalvin Cook. I think the only hole you can plug in it is, does Dallas give us any fight on the other side? Obviously, a game that's kind of a slow-paced game overall. But yeah, there's really not a lot of bad things I can say about Dalvin Cook. Like the Duke Johnson call, he still got volume last week. I'm kind of willing to just throw that game out in some ways
exactly
because the game
how I'm
environment was just so poor overall. So back to me then, right?
Back to you for one.
Cool. So I'm going to stay at running back as well. And this is a guy that we've kind of been waiting for that shift to happen, right? So DeAndre Swift, I know you were on him last week as well. He's 6,400. Still, to me, that feels underpriced. The guy had 21 touches last week. He had 5 targets. I talk about zone coverage versus man coverage a lot in terms of these pass catching running backs. Who plays more zone coverage than any team in the league? It's the Carolina Panthers, 78.7%. So I think DeAndre Swift, if they continue to give him the keys to this backfield, he's another guy that's just super, super underpriced in this spot. So I like Swift at 6,400. It's on this week.
I think that they have given him the keys to this offense. Played over 70% of snaps last week. That was the most, or the highest percentage on the season for any Lions running back. So DeAndre Swift, I think, is a very, very good play this week against the team that we have streamed running backs against since last year, and that has not stopped this year. There's a couple ways that I can go with this pick. I haven't decided what I want to do yet. I think that there's one play that is theoretically way above the rest, but there's a couple ways I can go with it, and it's not necessary that I go that route.
This is the part, like the first couple of picks are easy. Like you either going, there's a couple of directions
like
you can go.
Like I'm playing, it's the poker designation, right? Like the level 1 poker player is playing the cards that are in their hand. The level 2 player is playing the cards that are in your hand. Exactly. And the level 3 poker player, which for DFS, I think that we can say that both of us are level 3 here. It doesn't matter what my cards are. It doesn't matter what your cards are. It matters what cards I can make you think I have. So I'm kind of playing that level 3 game right now. Like, where is Joe going to go? And what do I have to take off the board from my perspective to make sure that I get a guy that I want in this spot? And I want the F1. I really just want Terry McLaurin. 6,900. It's nice. We're getting a ton of volume every single week. Playing against Cincinnati, who is an up-paced opponent for them. Washington playing much faster than they did last year. Yes, he has a quarterback that doesn't necessarily always stretch the field, playing on one leg, but has looked really good. This offense has looked way better the last 2 weeks than it has previously. So I'm going to take the solid volume here in the mid-range price with a player that's caught 7 balls each of the last 4 weeks. Does have a 100-yard bonus in his range, well within his range. Got it 2 weeks ago against the Giants, 90 and 95 yards in those other 2 games. So he's basically 1 touch away from getting me that extra 3 points and always a threat to get into the end zone. And I don't think that there is a cornerback wide receiver matchup that's been a trouble or a something that he can't get over. If you just look at his game logs, so very consistent the entire year. And for this price, I can easily get somebody that I believe can get me 2.5 to 3.5x on a pretty consistent basis. So solid floor, very good ceiling for Terry McLaurin.
Love it. One of the metrics that I bring up a ton, and I'm sure you're very aware of this as well, Smiz, but weighted opportunity rating. Basically, it's a mixture of target market share and air yards market share. Josh Hermsmeyer created it. If you were to just look at one thing for wide receivers, that is the one thing you would look at. If people always want the answers to the test on my channel, I'm sure they're the same way on yours, Smiz, but if there's one metric of wide receiver, that's the one. And who is always very high in that? It's Terry McLaurin, right? So I have no problem with that call whatsoever. So this year, again, I've evolved a little bit, right?
Okay.
So this is something that I normally wouldn't endorse going quarterback this early because I think there's a lot of different options. I do think that the opportunity cost at quarterback this year is a lot different than it has been in the past. There's these guys that do run. There's some guys that have a massive ceiling in any game, right? So I think that if people want to jump off of Deshaun Watson after last week, again, we talk about this windy game at Cleveland. I'm not convinced. I'm going back to Watson. I like that you have Duke Johnson, leverages me a little bit in that regard in our 1v1 here. But since Bill O'Brien was fired, this is the average for Deshaun Watson: 320 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 35 rushing yards if we take out last week. So I think he bounces back in a big way this week against the Patriots. One of the things, again, for these running quarterbacks that we typically want to see is the opposite of that running back for pass catchers. We want man coverage, and that really leads to these high rushing games. So who plays a lot of man coverage? It's the New England Patriots, tied for the 6th most rush TDs allowed to quarterbacks this year also. So I think it's a slam dunk play at 6,500. Feels too cheap, gives me some leverage, gives me some outs. I like Watson a lot.
He's one of the 2 quarterbacks that I wanted on this slate. Obviously, the other one, I can wait until my last pick to go to, and I know that I've got that penciled in.
Is I wanted to wait, but I didn't want you to take Watson from me.
See, I was playing the same game, and I was like, okay, if he takes one of the 2, I'll just take the other one. So that's why I went wide receiver with that last pick. I was like, do I need to take the quarterback? I have 2 guys on
my list, Al, and I would imagine the other guy is the one you want. Now you get to take him last. That's kind of the benefit of not taking quarterback early.
Is Joe the other one on your list?
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, say it.
It's Herbert, probably, right?
It's not Herbert for me.
Okay, cool. Either way, that would have been my number 2.
It's Burrow at his price. He should be 6,400, and he's 5,500.
I like Burrow. I think
he's massively underpriced this week in a game that might be one of the most potential to shoot out on this slate. Throws it 40 times every single game. Everybody else at quarterback seems to be priced appropriately. At the very least, I think that he is the least appropriately priced or the most mispriced quarterback on the slate.
He's the number 1 guy in my model for the record.
Yeah. Well, there you go. He's the one that's most underpriced, and I like attacking pricing inefficiencies is part of the thing that I do on DraftKings. So one of those 2 is going to be the route that I went. So let's plug in Watson for you here. He's been very good. And like you said, it's the stats since they got rid of Bill O'Brien. The one that stands out most to me, people look at rushing quarterbacks like, oh, it adds upside. I disagree. It adds floor. So the last 3 games, he has run the ball at least 7 times, 8, 10, and 7 in the last 3 weeks. Let's look at what he did all the weeks before. He did not have 7 rushes in 1 game from week 1 through 6. 4, 2, 5, 1, 5, 6. They just weren't letting him run. Now they're like, you know what? We need this as a part of your game. They've added some designed runs for him. That gives him a really high floor. The touchdown is what gives him the upside if he runs in a touchdown. But that has also opened things up, and people don't fully understand, I don't think. I think that some of our audiences understand why man-to-man defense is really essential. If you're rostering a running quarterback, it's much easier to run when a defense has the name on their back facing you as opposed to their eyes facing you. So when they're chasing somebody around in coverage, you can find holes to rip off 5, 10, 20 yards on a rip, as opposed to if they're playing zone and sitting in an area and they watch you take off and they attack. So you want running quarterbacks against a man-to-man sort of defense. That's something that we've always looked at to attack. So I've got Dalvin Cook. I've got Duke Johnson. You know what? I regret taking Duke Johnson over Swift in that spot. I should have taken Swift there because I don't think you would have taken Duke.
Both
It's
good
not
plays.
egregious, but like
It's
I wish I would have taken Swift.
well, I somewhat regret taking a quarterback early, so we both have some regrets.
I immediately regret this decision.
Well, I just regret it because now you don't even have to worry about it. You just
Nope.
get to pick it last.
I can just wait.
It's a tough scene. I'm gonna have to rebound a little bit here. Now I'm on tilt.
All right. I'm going to go back to wide receiver. And FanDuel priced these guys exactly the same. And DraftKings didn't. At least there's a little bit of variation in the pricing. Deontay Johnson's just too cheap. Every game that he has been healthy from start to finish, he has gotten double-digit targets on DraftKings. So week 10 against Cincinnati, 26 DraftKings points. Against Dallas, 14. Against Tennessee, 29. Against Denver, 23. Week 1 against the Giants, the lowest, 10.7 DraftKings points. I am a huge fan of Chase Claypool. I think that he's outstanding. I love the usage that he's gotten recently, and his touchdown upside is phenomenal. I think that all three are in play this week against Jacksonville. And you can kind of take a coin flip as to which one might end up as the highest scoring one on the weekend. But I believe that Deontay Johnson has the highest floor of this trio, while all three of them have exactly the same 25 to 30 point expected ceiling. Deontay Johnson. I'm drafting everybody named Johnson's going to be on my team this week.
That's the way to do it.
Deontay Johnson at 5.9K, added to the 6.9K for F1 McLaurin. Gives me a massive floor, access to a ceiling. I like locking up the points. I like where I'm sitting with this team right now, and I know where I can go for the rest of the way. So we're back to you. Which Pittsburgh wide receiver do you prefer?
So in this game or just in general?
Like this week.
Okay. I'm with you on Claypool more often than not. It's hard to argue with Deontay. Like, obviously he's kind of playing this Antonio Brown role in this offense. My concern is that there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, so it can kind of go wrong in some ways too. You would assume in this game, or we at least hope, that Jacksonville has some fight in them, so that you can keep Ben throwing a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't think his price is very good. So he's definitely one of the guys that's popping as a decent value. You can't argue with the volume. I just like the upside of Claypool. I'm a sucker for these guys that have like a package around the goal line that they just like feed them carries and like stuff like that, because people, I don't think, put enough emphasis on that type of floor that you can have for these wide receivers that actually get like 2 or 3 rush attempts every game. So I'm a Claypool person, but I can't fault you for the Deontay pick. I like them a lot. He's on my list.
Fair enough. All right, cool. We're coming back to you.
All right, so I always want to at least bank some sort of correlation, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently than you might think, because I still want to give myself, I think one thing that I regretted last year, obviously I had Christian McCaffrey early, so I was kind of in catch-up mode with salary. I want to have a little bit more flexibility down the stretch than I did last time. So one guy that I think it's pretty obvious, if last week didn't convince you that he's the guy, I don't know what else to tell you. JAKOBI Meyers, 4,900. He is the centerpiece of this New England offense right now, in my opinion. It gives me a bring back from Deshaun Watson already. 7, 14, 10 targets over his last 3 games. He has a 0.54 weighted opportunity rating. Only Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson have a higher yards per route run in the last 4 games. Obviously a very important metric for just quality of wide receivers overall. The tight ends in this offense, they're not doing anything. James White is playing less, which obviously helps the wide receivers. I love JAKOBI Meyers, 4,900. I think he's an awesome play this week.
I really do like him as a player. He's taken the job basically away from N'Keal Harry. The only danger with this, and I don't even know if it's a danger because they don't really play the same position, but Edelman's eligible to come back off of IR and they're testing him out. If Edelman's out, JAKOBI Meyers has been what, like 40% of the market share for the last 3 weeks? Yeah. Like that'll come down if Edelman's there. But like, what if it comes down to like still a league dominating 28 or 29%? Like 40 is absurd, right? It's not a high volume pass offense, but like even 30% of 30 throws, you're doing all right. That's 9 targets, 4,900. He was going to be where I was going to go with my next pick.
What's kind of interesting, actually, so I do agree with you that they run a lot of similar routes, but there's correlation tools out there that you can use based on different players. You know who the #1 correlation with JAKOBI Meyers is? It's not Cam Newton. It's Julian Edelman. So only 8 game sample size, obviously very small, But I think both these guys, even if Edelman comes back, I think they both can have a good game.
That's what I'm saying. I think that Meyers will still he's earned the target market share that he's getting right now. It will come down because Edelman has to eat somewhat. Like, you can't just say, well, he's going to come in and get 0%. But if Edelman's out, he's an absolute smash at 4,900 once again.
With you.
So let's go back to my team. Let's see, where can I go with this? There's a few different ways that I can go.
Well,
I don't need to take
Smith,
a
so you
quarterback.
better make a good pick here, because I have some big time plans the rest of the way.
All right. I don't have big time plans. I'm very close to the vest here for the rest of for the duration at this point. But there are a couple of different ways that I can do this. Like, I could go, like, I'm trying to pencil in where I'm at quarterback and then see how much I have left. Like, there's a lot of high volume wide receivers that are still on the board.
Yeah, there's a couple that scare me if I was to go that direction next, for sure.
Yeah. I think that it's a weird week for tight ends too. There's literally nothing.
Isn't it always a weird week at tight end?
No, just play Kelsey.
Yeah, or on FanDuel, you just play Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
That's a stupid God. Why is he a tight end?
I don't know. One of my best slates of the year last year was a playoff slate. It was a short slate. Just played Taysom Hill at tight end. He ended up throwing one, and like, I don't know, it was insane. It was like one of the biggest Taysom Hill games ever. So got a little bit lucky. But he's the stone man. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's no reason he's not. Like, 4,000 is the absolute minimum. Like, 4,500 is still absurdly cheap on FanDuel for somebody who could theoretically who normally plays 10 to 20 snaps a game, could, in the absence of Drew Brees, play 21 to 30 snaps this week. As Sean Payton gets to play around with his new toy with no encumbrances like Drew Brees standing in the way. You just say, I'm just going to roll him out there for like half the snaps, which would kill Jameis Winston and also make Taysom Hill the best play on FanDuel at 4,500.
Well, now even on FanDuel, like, so my I guess first instinct was, wow, Jameis might be a good play, but on DraftKings now I don't even have to think about it, because I can just play both on FanDuel, and then I have both those things covered, and I have a quarterback at my tight end slot. Worst case, or I guess worst case is Taysom Hill gets like 3 points, and then it's tight end anyways. Doesn't even matter. So
I wonder if people
I have a hard time going
things
Jameis on
there.
DraftKings.
I wonder if people are going to do crazy things on FanDuel, like stack Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, and Kamara.
Could happen. What do you think about like the fit overall? Like, the pieces don't really come together seamlessly, right? Like, he doesn't have the most touch in the world. Like, you would argue that this offense is built for like that short to intermediate, right? So I don't know. Like, I actually, like, people talk about Bridgewater having like, they're totally different players, Bridgewater versus like just a Jameis in general. So like, the fit is better for Bridgewater last year. But I don't know. Maybe I'm underselling Jameis and his ability to kind of uplift offenses as a whole. Do you like the fit? Like, I don't know. It makes me nervous.
I don't know. They're just, I mean, if it was a Mike Thomas centric offense anymore, I might like the fit, or I might dislike the fit, but it's not. So like, Jameis will challenge more down the field to their speedy guys. Like, and Sanders is still kind of a speedy guy, and Traquan is a speedy guy, and then like Callaway as well. Like, those guys are now more in play with a quarterback like that from a GPP perspective, because people aren't going to play him. They're going to be less than like 3%, but like, he will throw it down the field. But, you know, I mean, the Falcons defense might be really correlated with him as well.
My only argument is, like, I still, like, obviously last week was not fun if you had any Michael Thomas as like one-off plays in tournaments. But like, I think there's at least a chance that Sean Payton just like really dumbs down this offense for Jameis as a whole. And maybe Taysom Hill was just more involved last week because it was like the middle of the game and they know what they get with them, that sort of thing. So if they dumb it down, it would benefit a guy like Michael Thomas, who just runs a lot of slants, right? So I don't know. It's something I'm thinking about. I'm not sure exactly what to do with Jameis yet.
Yeah, I have not decided, and luckily we don't have to decide for like a few more days. So right. That's nice, at least. Tell you what I'm going to do. I know that it may be a slow game script. I know that the touchdowns can go anywhere, but I'm going to take Keenan Allen against the Jets here.
That was one of the guys
7,400. I think he bounces back to another 7 to 12 target game. Everybody says, well, they're going to blow out the Jets, so you're not going to get pass game work. If they blow out the Jets and score 35 points, that's a lot of touchdowns. And that's a lot of ball movement, right? They're not going to score 5 touchdowns on 5 plays. But now that I've said that, they're totally going to score 5 touchdowns on their first 5 plays. And then I'm going to be drawing dead because one of them's not going to go to Keenan Allen. It's going to be like Guyton and then like Balaj and whatever else. So basically, give me Keenan Allen in this spot, which is going to make me have to find value, but I think that there's value to be found. We already know that I've got a cheap quarterback in play. I like the volume that I got here between Dalvin Cook, McLaurin, Johnson, Allen, and I'm going to kick it back to you.
All right. This is like the main, I guess, point when I say that I've evolved. I used to never play this human. And he actually, like, I guess this could bury my entire week, Smiz, because this is like one that I almost never get right. But Derrick Henry at 8K, he's my next guy. And I think there's some stuff like, yes, on the surface, this is a good defense against running backs, but they have given up some big games, number one. But number two, Baltimore lost Brandon Williams, a key run defender for them last week. So I think there's a chance that Derrick Henry, I have some concerns that, like, obviously the passing game concerns. I don't love the price at 8K, but I kind of like where I'm at right now in terms of remaining salary per player. So I do like Derrick Henry a lot this week, probably more of a tournament option. But I think that this is a spot where he might go a little bit overlooked. If it's one of those games where you get those 24 touches on the ground, I think there's a chance that he breaks a big one this week.
Is there any player on any slate that is more likely to get 150 yards and 2 touchdowns week in, week out than Derrick Henry?
I struggle with him, man, just because he's not as active in the passing game, and now
he's active. Losing he's not at all active.
Not at all, but there was times this year he was, and now he's not again. So maybe it's just fool's gold for me. I don't like the price, Al. I don't love the price at all. I wrestled with this. I didn't like what I was building if I was to go the Kamara route in this last spot. But man, my biggest concern is that Foreman has been involved in that sort of thing. But if this is a spot where, like, the one thing that I really like is that he can just break those big plays and it just speeds up the game in general. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go with Henry.
I'm fine with it. Look, has a low floor, his floor could be like 7 points if he just runs for 70, 75 yards. But like, he also has that 30 plus point ceiling if he gets it rolling. And as you mentioned, Baltimore, another team that's not the defense that they were before. I need a tight end. There's a couple ways I can go here. I think that there's enough value elsewhere. And I think that there's actually, you know what? I can do a couple things at tight end. I'm not going to take
two guys on my list, just like quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to take somebody else. I think there's enough. Like, if you take one guy that I want, there's another guy in a similar price point that I can go get. We were talking about Jameis a lot, and I know that they don't get a lot of pressure on the passer, at least not consistently, but there has been a high correlation between Jameis Winston and the opposing defense with touchdown correlation. So give me the Falcons at 2,300 this week. We know that the Saints are going to drop back. And anytime that Jameis Winston drops back, there is a high probability he's going to throw an interception. So
confirmed.
Give me the Falcons and those opportunities at pick sixes.
All right, so that's it's
the one thing. Like, I didn't have to worry about
game.
You taking a quarterback. Now I know that you can't take the cheap defense that I think is the best cheap defense on the board. Like, I don't think that there's other cheap defenses that I'm into. I'm not interested in Jacksonville, not interested in the Jets, not interested in the Cowboys. So, like, there's no other really cheap defenses that I think are super duper in play. And Bart Simpson told me don't play the Texans defense, so I can't play them. So like, I think it's the Falcons, or you're paying up a little bit more, somewhere around 28 to 3,300.
All right. Well, since you told me that you were playing Burrow at quarterback, I guess I can tell you my defense at this point. No matter what, by the way, I was playing the defense against your quarterback. So I'm glad that I know who your quarterback is. That actually helps me out a lot. So the Washington defense, 2,900. The one thing that you can say about Burrow is that he has not been that good in games where he's been under pressure. So his yards per attempt goes from 7.6 to 5.0 in those games. We saw him struggle against Pittsburgh. I think this defensive front for Washington, maybe not as good, but it's up there for sure. I think they're too cheap. So that's probably the one I'll leave for last, since you're leaving quarterback for last. So I like that quite a bit. So I mentioned Derrick Henry on the last one. Part of the reason that I really like Derrick Henry is because he can really speed up the game overall. So I'm going to do a little bit of a mini stack here. And I think there's a couple ways you can go at tight end. Like, this is like my very anti-fragile lineup in general, because this guy has buried me this year. But Mark Andrews, I told myself if I did get Henry, I was going to go Andrews on the other side in this game. I hate tight end as a whole. But after Boyle gets hurt last week, just carted off, I think that there's going to be, I mean, he's going to be on the field a ton, right? Like Andrews, if he gets another couple targets, I think it's great. Tight end, we want a couple different things. We want high team totals for touchdowns, obviously, but the volume still has to be there. So he leads the slate in target per route run over the last 4 games. He leads the slate in weighted opportunity rating over the last 4 at tight end, 3rd highest team total on the slate. The correlation with Derrick Henry, if Derrick Henry breaks a 90-yard touchdown, we got Mark Andrews coming right after, right? So I like that a lot at tight end. And I hate the position overall, but since I do have Watson, normally I would just add a little bit of correlation with a cheap guy. I don't feel good about Akins or Fells, so I'm going to go with Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews has run 70% of routes per drop back in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, which is really where we want to see him. Last year, he was around 45 to 50%. You also have Boyle out now, and Tennessee has been a pass funnel defense that has allowed a lot of deep completions and a lot of deep passes. No tight end in the league. Somebody's going to argue with me. So this other tight end is almost as good. Mark Andrews, super good on deep routes. Big splash ability for this Ravens offense. I think that Lamar is a fantastic tournament play this week with a double stack between Brown and Andrews. And no tight end above 4,900. So a lot of value at tight end this week.
Agreed. Yeah, it's paying up even at all can kind of burn me in the spot. There's a guy that's really cheap who I'm sure is probably one of the guys you've been looking. I guess not Stone Min type of cheap, but kind of in that mid range. There's a couple guys, but just such a gross position. I'd rather correlate it in some way.
I mean, there's a few things that we can do at tight end, and I can either do something for the memes and make everybody really upset, or I can draft a play that I think is good. And
always got to go for the memes.
The memes play is not bad. Okay. The memes play is actually not bad. The actually good play is Dallas Goedert at 3,800.
I had 2 guys on my list. That was number 2.
Yeah.
Nice.
So chat's going crazy. Memes, redacted memes.
Love it.
So Dallas Goedert, I think, is the actually good play at tight end. I don't think that I need the money to go down to the memes play. The memes play, clearly, Joe, if you don't know, is whose name I'm not allowed to say on this show because of the fact that he leads the league in terms of routes per dropback. He is competent. I think he's 6th in the league in terms of ADOT at the tight end position, so they do target him down the field a little bit because of his athleticism. Since they made the change to Alex Smith, he's gotten 6 targets in each of the last 2 games, which he basically topped out at 4 for the last month before that. So he's getting constant usage and challenging a little bit more down the seams. I think he's a good play this week. You can play him, but I can't play his name. So there's your breakdown on him, since people missed that on first look, but I can't say his name. Redacted shirts are available in the merch shop. Click on the Teespring link down below. Go get yourself a red one. There's also blue and gold ones for so if you want him, you can get a shirt of either one of those guys. They're both redacted. I can't say their names.
I like that. I got one of those buttons. I can hit this too.
You've got the Go XLR2. Nice.
Oh, I got the mini, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yours has like all the voice changing stuff. Yes. Though, I think it's funny too.
I'm gonna have to change all my sub sounds. So like I'm gonna have to make my own because I have.
I should use that button more. I got to figure out a cool way to use that button. That's a great button. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Goedert. I'm gonna disappoint chat who wants the memes, but I'm gonna go with Goedert. We've already included redacted in the first look lineup. So we already memed it up this week on YouTube. I'm going to go with Goedert, who is the actually good play here. Leaving me with 4,600. Clearly, I can plug this in for a little bit of suspense. You know that Joe Burrow is going to be my quarterback. Leaving me with 3,800 for a flex play before I kick it back to Joe. So you guys can try and figure out who I have before I make the pick. A little bit of suspense there. Who you want, Joe?
All right. So since you have Duke Johnson, I have Deshaun Watson, I have Jakobi Meyers on the other side of it. I got to keep this correlation rolling a little bit here. So a lot of people might think I'm just going the cheaper route here, but Will Fuller, if you take out that win game, which is not a game that would fit his skill set at all, 0.53 weighted opportunity over the last 4. That's top 10 at the position. I don't love the price at 6,200, but again, I'm not trying to build the optimal here. I'm trying to beat you.
Exactly.
And one way that I can beat you is if Duke Johnson doesn't get in the box and Will Fuller breaks a big one with Deshaun Watson. So pretty easy call for me.
He's been so good this year.
He's so good. And
he is
like
a very
this
good
will be the
player.
game where he gets hurt and buries me and everyone
no, it
else.
won't. He's fixed everything like that. He's fixed all that. He fixed it. During the offseason, there was a lot of talk about he was working kind of like Zion Williamson was working with a physical trainer to change the mechanical flaws in his running style.
Interesting.
Which was what was leading to a lot of the soft tissue injuries that he had, right? Injuries are unpredictable. It's the NFL. It's a next man up league, and anybody can get hurt at any time. But I'm hoping that he stays healthy for the duration, and not because of best ball leagues, not because of anything else, but because, damn it, he's really talented, and I would love to see him finish a year so that he could get that monkey off his back and have people stop saying, Will Fuller just always gets injured. Like, he's going to get injured, and Twitter's going to go nuts. See, I told you. Like, you predicted an injury in the NFL. Congratulations, Kreskin.
Is there anything worse than Twitter that's just gonna like victory lap like an injured player or
you
something
could
like that?
literally have
That's
ended that
worst.
sentence at, is there anything worse than Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know me, I could care
Period.
less about Twitter, like the people on Twitter, I should say. Like, I'm not interested in getting into fights with people like that have eggs in their account. I guess on the
I'm
positive
very
side,
interested in getting into fights with people on Twitter.
yeah, I guess don't have time, and I just don't care more often than not. I'm with you though on the Fuller stuff though. Like, I know a lot of people in your chat probably don't know this, but I played Division I hockey, played a little bit of minor pro, and there's so much tied to like that core strength area or just like certain things like that. So one of the seasons that going into my first year of college, I had a torn labrum, got hip surgery. It was also before I came back from that, it affects your groins, it affects your hamstrings, it affects everything. So just like fixing that sort of mechanical stuff, which it sounds like he's definitely done some work on, probably a lot of band work to strengthen those type of things too. It can make a huge difference. It's not like you're injury prone forever. There's a lot of things you can do behind the scenes.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to come back to me here because you still have, you want to pick your defense here?
No, go ahead.
Well, you said who it was going to be. It's going to be Washington, just so that we have.
It is Washington pending you pick Burrow.
Yeah, I've already got him penciled in.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'm just going to put that in there because those are just auto picks for both of us. I have 3,800 remaining. I have a flex spot remaining. I am not going with a running back, obviously, because there are none in this range as they are minimumed out at 4,000, which leaves me with a wide receiver. I do have Keenan Allen, which would mean that if I want some correlation, I could easily go with Denzel Mims. And I think that he is a good play this week. For me, it's a toss-up between Mims and KJ Hamler for Denver, who has seen 20 targets over the last 2 weeks. We know that he's got a ridiculous ceiling because of his player profile, right? How fast he is, how much of a deep threat he is. They have not unlocked that as of yet, but they've turned him over the last 2 weeks into a player with a very solid floor because of the targets that he's getting for only 3,600. So I'm going to take the floor play here, but also is coupled with a ceiling possibility to unlock the rest of this lineup. Putting Joe Burrow in there because he's a plug and play because you couldn't take him. I'm going to leave $200 on the table. My lineup is Joe Burrow, Dalvin Cook, Duke Johnson. Kind of wish it was Swift. McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen, Dallas Goedert, KJ Hamler, and the Falcons defense highly correlated.
Love it. For the record, those are the two cheap wide receivers on my list as well. So you mentioned Denzel Mims first, just 3,300. He was a second round pick. He does have a Chris Godwin comp as well at Player Profiler. 8 targets last week, 0.6 weighted or 0.67 weighted opportunity over the last 3 weeks, which is very elite. But KJ Hamler, you said it, definitely the safer play, running a lot in the slot, which seems kind of odd relative to like his DeShaun Jackson type of comp as well. But over 90% of the routes run per drop back. That's a better spot to attack Miami anyway in the slot. So I like the KJ Hamler play a ton, man. I think
all the reasons I went with him. And like you said, he profiles as like a 9 running guy. Yeah. But so does CeeDee Lamb. And he had some great success with a solid quarterback. Obviously, Denver doesn't have a solid quarterback right now, but like they've run him in the slot because they have great talent on the outside anyway. So they're just going to get their guys on the field. So like you're telling me I've got a game-breaking guy in the slot, and we saw CeeDee Lamb get deep as well. There's a possibility that if he shakes one loose or takes a 6-yard slant all the way to the house 65 yards down the road, he gets there for value for me plus on one play, like 5x is his salary on one play.
All right, so I got one guy left then,
One guy left, 5,800. One wide receiver.
There's a couple guys I considered here. So I could just add to my correlation with Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, and Derrick Henry. One of the things that has not been good is the correlation with Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. So I think Marquise Brown is out for me. Okay. Another guy that I considered was adding DJ Moore to this to give me correlation with DeAndre Smith. DJ Moore has been very good as well in terms of his volume. I think he's underpriced. So I'm basically going in between DJ Moore and just adding to my Deshaun Watson correlation with Brandon Cooks. So that's my dilemma. I think I'm going to go with Cooks, 0.6 weighted opportunity over the last 4. I would rather just add to my quarterback correlation here. We'll go double stack, bring it back with Meyers. I guess I have a little bit of a concern that maybe that game ends up being kind of gross and the Patriots run the ball a ton. But I think the tiebreaker for me is you do have Duke Johnson. So I would rather have another piece that can directly leverage Duke Johnson versus just giving my DeAndre Swift a little bit more correlation with DJ Moore. So I'm going to go with Cooks. It's kind of scary, but the volume has been great. He's also been very consistent. I'm pretty happy with that.
I think you got to put this into a high stakes tournament. This is a wildcat lineup. This is a highly correlated, high stakes tournament lineup.
This is the one I can just throw in that $500 millie. Wouldn't that be something?
There you go. Well, Joe, thank you very much for joining. Deshaun Watson, PERINE, Swift, Meyers, Fuller, Cooks correlated with Watson. Bring it back with Andrews and Henry as a mini stack, a secondary stack there. Like the team, it's going to be a fun match. Leave me a reply down below who you think is going to win, and look out for another video right here.
He's a legend.